We meaning not just those whose contact with poems, poets, and poetry is sporadic and accidental, but even those of us who live in the constant weathers of poetry. Perhaps most of all, those of us who have chosen to draw poetry all around us in our daily lives. We need to recall the elemental importance and urgency of poetry, the subtle nurture and the profound grace it allows in our otherwise rudimentary and often punishing lives. I present Christina Hutchins.
We're going to hear from 4 of the poets who are regulars and then some at the Wednesday evening poetry workshop that we've had. In fact, some of them have been doing it as long as I've been doing it, which is a long time now, like 6 years or something. And so I'm going to introduce them one by one and just say just a little bit about them. And the first one is Frances Hilliard, who is, I've been knowing you in poetry land for about 10 years or something, a long time. And she told me, no, she didn't tell me, but she's the best poet in the world. And but she's a poet and an activist, a very committed person, and she's a member of Berkeley Unitarian Fellowship, and does a lot of community activism through that organization. So this is Frances.
All right, is this my level? Myself as Jewel Lake splashes along busy fringes, ripple tingles, rushes of energy. Everything comes here and becomes watery. A meditation, mediation between betweens. Becoming pulls many things into existence. Nameless things soon falling back to darkness. Throbbing bird calls do not penetrate smooth flow. Reeds sway as though by accident. From cloud-curdled sky for celebrations of bird, leaf, and dragonfly. This is how things become one another, reflecting from sun-struck surface, sinking among logs and leaves of has-been trees. What once was whole becomes building material or garden. Mosses grow, shelled creatures huddle in debris. Watch the stones clatter when a sluice opens or winds change. All things happen here, a maze. And most of my poetry is nature-related, so I have the next one is called Heron in the Marsh. Tall spectator of small happenings, the heron at Tilden steps into Jewel Lake among minnowy glitterings, regally setting in the gray morning like a white, crooked reed among the green crests and wallowing mallards. His Majesty considers serenely, then plunges sharp bill into chill clarity, deep to the mud, brings up a fish, hooks it down. What a desperate thrashing by the fish. What a silence afterwards. And now we're going to the farthest stretch of nature. This one has no title yet. We laugh at the dodo for no longer being. Uglier things have survived, and more laughable, such as that anthropoid species that thinks it owns the world. The dodo kept its place on rocky shores. For as long as it could, it stood up to humankind. So I say hurrah for the dodo, equally worthy, equally awkward in its being and in its being gone. Let's see. seem to conclude what I had to receive.
Thank you, Frances. Our next poet is probably the youngest person in the room, but she's one of our most experienced poets, I think. And actually, it's Brianna Grace Contaxis Tucker, and I've known her a long time. And I remember a conversation when you were 5 years old, and she had like a favorite word of the week. So I would ask her what it was. When she was 5, it was perpendicular. And so anyway, and she's a senior at St. Mary's College Prep High School and is off to college in the fall, unless we can get her to flunk. So this is Brianna Grace Contaxis Tucker.
Hello. So I have 3 sort of unrelated poems, but I think the first one's especially fun. The Unrevealed Truths of a Cat. The tiny, dedicated scientist knelt down, a world to learn from the silver figure atop the fence post. Why do you wait? Do you dream of Pharaoh's throne? Do you wait in the shadows to come in with the moon? Do you fear the edge of the roof? Do you want to fly like the raven at dusk? Is the closed door a disappointment? Or is the fireplace a home? Why do you sit apart when you could have my fingers through your fur? Why do you drift between aloof, cautious and curious? Do you love? Do your siblings cry? Did you venture out, or were you grasped by time, transported into your new life? Do you want the wilderness? Will you stay a while? Will you be my friend? Come, feline, and tell me as you curl your midnight ears against my chin. The mind of a writer. I am lost in a gentle storm of greater infinites. Words are thrown at me like rain, though my now shadowed thoughts can be highlights on another day. Today, the open sky of possibility is in my hand, folded into the pages of wind-blown stories of going somewhere. Look inside me. Silent streams of consciousness jumble into existence, floating into the air, searching for a poem. A rhythm yearns for a lyric to follow, a cadence that breaks the monotony of reality, cluttered life, when we are too busy living. Yet so often when I wish to write, to share our lives, it stands 5 feet tall over my head and stops the words from coming in. Or rather, the words are on one side and my life is on the other. No longer one and the same. Life is too big to hold, too grand for paper and pen to grasp. Yet as though through writing we might grow in thinking, whether storm of words or abrupt quietness of the mind, we must try. And lastly, our history untold. We do not know yet what you will hold until you have come, folded into the pages of time, written in fragments. Some will see your elegance, a majestic, gleaming fortress of success, like a child's living room castle. Others see the skeleton of the living room couch, the endless clutter. Some see the expansion and growing of days, while others see what is left behind. You are not guilty of the lives that have suffered, the watery secrets seeping through the gates of authority escaped or caught within your reflection. And no one is to know what will be your next story or why we walk the same paths. We wish to learn from you, yet we do not wish to listen. What will we do next? What will our children see in this airtight record, this space in between us and those before, us and those beyond? Or what will become of you after we are all gone?
Our next reader, I just have to say, Brianna is one of my favorite kinds of poets, which is someone who's a philosopher through their poems. I really like that. Larry Crispin is our next reader, and he is a resident of El Sobrante, but he finds his way all around the East Bay and attends more poetry events each month than anybody I've ever known. Usually like 9 or something. 10. Yeah. So he's a poetry junkie. And he's a regular at the Wednesday workshop, as everyone here is, and his poetry's been growing as everyone's has. So welcome, Larry.
Whatever the name, my enchantment with Allison was exactly the same. I have about at least 6 poems that I've written about the hawks that fly outside my window, and this one's called Hawks 2. How can I write poetry when red-tailed hawks fly across the blue sky, so close to my windows, float without moving a wingtip? They create lines in the heavens, soaring sonnets no poet could write, and few writers can read. How can I write poetry with this display of life on wing? How can I not? This is called Outside My Window, or Hawks 1. 2 large unknown raptors, birds of prey, right there, just sitting right there across from my windows. Not the birds of prey I see most days. Those red-tailed hawks float in the sky. They do not even move a wingtip. Wild turkey make quite a racket below. Black-tailed deer nibble the bushes. Unseen, a mountain lion sees everything. The hawk cried. I sighed. The red-tailed hawks tried to get to the nest of the red-winged blackbird. The female guarded the nest. The male blackbird chased the hawk. Many times its size. Chased it far, chased it fast, ferociously. I saw the exact same dance at the same time and place 2 days later. The hawks who took a summer vacation, now 4 hawks flirt in feathered fascination. 2 couples without fear of flying create the baby chicks to be. The whole tableau of wildlife unfolds so near. Red-tailed hawks in the blue sky are watching, gliding, floating, soaring, and so am I. This is my last one. It's called Midnight Class. I was thinking of this, of our class when I started it, but I quickly went in a different direction. And I've been wanting Christine to hear this since I wrote in September. I went to a class late one night. The building was out of sight. The course price was such a deal. The teachers were a bit unreal. What in my poetry I was drowning, suddenly appeared Robert Browning. He was teaching us some rhyme. These days he has so little time. With him, Elizabeth Barrett Browning. At my prose she was frowning. She said I should come in a sonnet. Elizabeth said, that is not it. After midnight was Edgar Allan Poe. I love his Raven, as you may know. He read his poem Annabel Lee. It was so dark you could barely see. I looked into the ceiling vaulted. Is this place a little haunted? William Blake was so surreal. Blake's poetry has amazing zeal. Suddenly appeared William Shakespeare. He saw computers. How did they get here? Shakespeare offered some advice. Some was good, some not so nice. One class was Oakland's Garrett Murphy. He writes such humorous poetry, such biting political satire, that my poetry book caught fire. The great local writer John Rowe, he is a poet that you may know. Combining Lao Tzu and Stephen Wright, we may dream to have his insight. From the past, Petrarch was our guest. He wrote of Laura, as you have guessed. Between sonnets and haiku, this class may be just for you. Would you like to take this class, or afraid it may knock you on your ass? If you enroll, don't be late. There's a 300-year-long wait. On the road less traveled, we were lost. There, mending fences, was Robert Frost. Someone asked him about free verse. As the roads diverged, he began to curse. With Virgil, Homer, and William Wordsworth, we really got our money's worth. Longfellow, John Donne, and Ezra Pound. I do not know how this may sound. This was not your normal school. Pushkin and Chaucer in a carpool. One poet was Sylvia Plath. She hardly ever came to class. One night was Emily Dickinson. We were amazed that she might come. That class filled up so soon, she never even left her room. This was too much. We were confused. I decided it's better to choose to be the protege of the great Christina and see Bob Dylan playing a concertina. I dreamed to write a villanelle. Then Dylan Thomas came up from hell. Dylan Thomas stumbled off to a bar. I drove straight home in my car.
Thank you, Larry. Our last class participant reader tonight is Elizabeth Lyons, who is a Albany artist. Our last class participant reader tonight is Elizabeth Lyons, who is a Albany artist and letterpress printer. And I've seen some of her work, and it is beautiful. It's the kind of letterpress printing, where you have to set each piece of type separately. And she's been a long time writer, just sort of quietly working away, and I think you will love what you hear.
This first poem is about a vacation that I took. Road runners start to the shoulder. Two birds run, panicked, and the gravel scratches under my soft tires. A yellow heap on the road increases thickly en route to Bakersfield. Those birds who ran are behind me now. Some miles have calmed into the heat-blurred foothills, huddled in a small shade. By 2 o'clock, a gross motionlessness seizes every stone. The air pressure inertia walls down on bonsai shrubs. In Bakersfield, a car dealership, bunting blows imperceptibly, and Carl's Jr., air-conditioned and dimly lit. This next one is called the Berkeley Pier. The Berkeley Pier. Over the bay, a road of stained cement. Bullheads relax, fly-studded. Reels zip, spectacular catches die in violent convulsions, glistening silver, while the fisherman's offspring squeal. We stroll, we find discarded lines still with hooks and throw them in. Hold and wait, tug on luck. Underneath, waves dive unflinchingly into the pylons. Through the Golden Gate, a breath of incense from Japan, and hands tie a swivel to the line. This one is a slightly older one. It's called News Vegan. No TV or online news. Only soy ink on paper and local non-dairy radio news. Just tofu news or news salad gleaned near the railroad tracks, open lots between boarded up buildings, chicory and dandelion news. Only word of mouth or handbills stapled on wood phone poles, or by drum or sung on a street corner, or by cloud or TV. Okay, this is pretty older one from 2009. It's called Somewhere I Have Lived. They sell drugs on Alabama Street. They paint garage doors in flaming red with a 4-foot wide bird and dice and their name in a morte. Sheriffs dress in black, guns on the house next door. They fire up steam engines on Alabama Street. The smoke of 2x4s and great dense billows of steam vapor linger and clot through the pepper tree branches. Dogs bark and roosters crow on Alabama Street. Synapse of the arc welder crack from Ubners across the alley, and palm trees hush and cars pulse loud on Alabama Street just off Tennessee. This, my last one, is called Lying. It's not really lying after the fact if I could make it true by acting as if it were, but still's not equal to actually true, even if I'm the only one who knows. Not that I could prove it, but neither can anyone, can they? It's caught, not lying, that is the sinful thing. Being known as a liar. I'm nice. Not only do I lie, but I know it when I hear one, and I act like I believe. 2 lies in one make a covenant. 2 tied in lies a separate world away, an Eden, more pleasant than truth, long-lasting and immutable. Lies are forever established. I could get the truth wrong, but lies remain the same. Reliable lies, knowns. What a comfort they are. Thank you.
So I'm going to read a few, but first I wanted to say thank you to Catherine for inviting our class to come be readers. And I teach a lot, and this particular class is one of my very favorites. I just love it because people come just because they want to. There's no other, and a community gets built over time. It's really lovely. Actually, I'm going to read a poem since we've been having that really strong wind this past couple days, and tomorrow it's supposed to be like a Santa Ana kind of wind, which is an offshore wind, which means it's going in the direction of offshore, and onshore comes in the direction of here. So this is a poem about Santa Ana, which actually is made into 2 words that was Santana, like the rock group, which means the devil. So this is called The World is Heating. The world is heating, and I am one more brick of dirty silver falling from the sky. And the Santana winds, planes skitter side to side on untamed flows of air. I thought I was only at practice in this wind, descending, lurching down its steep blue stair. But the wing is a scrim, and it's opening night, always, and closing too. What seemed far is near is already here. If my voice seems quieter to you now, it is only because I have enfolded the distance across which leaps the charge. A hummingbird draws iridescent arrows. Its crown of ice is the bottom of the world. One of my brothers is an oceanographer who goes to Antarctica every summer there, winter here. And he said that each year, their icebreaker goes about 2 miles further in before it hits ice, which is pretty sobering. Entrance. I don't think you have to know anything in particular about it. It said entrance to parking, and this morning I entered. The sign was hung with the bright knapsacks of children. Nearby, 3 easy boys slow-tangled the lengths of the grass. But I've come to think there's no entrance to time, just exits from now, and now, and from now. I know that as I know the tending of an absence. Color, radiance, beauty, all loss. Red taillights glowing October, the slope of an overpass at the curve of the interchange run with rain. Japanese maples in their 5-gallon tubs waste their dazzle into our wasting. Day and night are 2 seasons of loss, one into the other, both to rhythms that turn us all. Dry dirt gathers and rolls ahead of a rush of the air. And dust, long settled, becomes the ink of wind. Then disperses, a shadow behind a new mother's chair meets its rocker and pushes it away. Last week, rabbit, this is for you. Small is my hand and autumn brown. You made of the hedge a pathway where I couldn't go. Little scamper of my unmaking. I was the giant fright, the edge of your hiding. And the growl of a chainsaw in the wild distance, biting stove lengths of wood. I was that distance, come close. Once on Grove Street downtown, a magnolia in bloom reached for my breath in the dark. We were a nest of departures, the tree from itself, and me, my own breath, from me. Like every lucky child, I went the way of milk. Dandelions are flown by my trouser legs, and I've known too the wet nonsense, popsicle world, melted blue, and jellyfish dead under the moon's silver heel. But those knapsacks laced over and hung from the sign. And yesterday, in the morning when I tried to drag a plastic lawn table further from the crowd, and 3 of the 4 legs fell off, there was Aaron, table legs in his arms, tapping the legs back in place, righting the table. Right then the day set part of itself within me. I remembered Ezra in the game store. I have 2 packages of chaos and 1 pack of doom and destruction, he said. Say please. Naomi's voice, Ezra, say please. Please, can I have chaos and doom and destruction? He asked, and the clerk handed them over. And you, your milk, our rain, your damp breath and swagger where once I walked a field whose dry blooms tapped my shoe tops. If I'm bustier than usual, it's because I've stuffed the chest of my sweater with stolen roses. It's night, but in the light they will be golden, and you'll find the scratches on my breasts.